Suspended Western Cape Judge President Hlophe may be the first High Court judge to be impeached. Well, he is now actually the first judge to be impeached. And we're now just waiting on the President to sign off on that decision by Parliament. So Parliament voted yesterday on the removal, while 27 votes were voting against that removal. Previously, Hlophe's last-minute bid to stop MPs from voting on his impeachment failed after the Western Cape High Court struck his urgent application of the role. The National Assembly vote comes after the Portfolio Committee's recommendation to remove Hlophe following findings of a gross misconduct by the Judicial Service Commission. For more on this story, we are now joined by EFF MP Advocate Busisiwe Mkwebane, as well as DA MP Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach. We understand that Advocate Mkwebane hasn't joined the meeting as yet, but as soon as she joins, we will bring her up on your screen. Let's start off with Advocate Breytenbach. Good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you so much, Advocate. What played out yesterday, unprecedented, and also listening to your remarks during the voting, or just ahead of the voting, is that Judge President Hlophe had an illustrious career. The youngest judge to be appointed in the Western Cape High Court, also the youngest Judge President, and here's somebody who was appointed directly from academia to the bench.
Yeah, look, Judge President Hlophe had everything going for him. He's very well educated. He has a very strong academic background. He was appointed straight to the bench from academia, as you say, and he had a whole string of the youngest of everything. So he had, every opportunity to have a really stellar judicial career. He could have made a real impact, as everyone expected him to do. It's very unfortunate that his career has ended up this way, but he has no one to blame but himself.
Yeah. Would you say, looking back at the history of Judge John Hlophe as well, if you look, for instance, at some of the complaints that have been lodged against him, outside of this particular complaint by Bess Ngabinde as well as Chris Jafta, that there had been moments where there were red flags that the Judicial Service Commission should have actually acted on, that would have avoided us even getting to this particular stage?
Well, absolutely. His career was a controversial one. There were many controversies, both personal and professional, and he just never managed to live up to the very stringent, very stringent requirements for being a judge. When one wants to, be elevated to the bench and sit in judgment of other people, you're held to a much higher standard than other people, and that's unfortunately the way it has to be. And so you have to live an exemplary personal life, you have to live an exemplary professional life, and there's no room for anything to fall between the cracks.
What level of responsibility then should the Judicial Service Commission, the Judicial Conduct Committee as well, also take with relation to how long it has come to this particular point, considering that the complaint was first run about 2008, and of course there was the decision that was taken back in 2008 that he wasn't found guilty. The Premier then, Helen Zille, said that she wasn't part of the process, and therefore the process should be nullified, and the courts found in her favor.
Certainly, there were many alarm bells along the way. Absolutely, the JSC must bear some of the responsibility for this thing dragging on like this, and the Judicial Conduct Committee also, allowing matters to drag on for well over 10 years. It's really disgraceful. As at the JSC, we will have to re-examine how we approach these matters, and the Judicial Conduct Committee may have to do some self-examination. As you say, the DA flagged this matter in 2008, and it's been a long and seriously uphill battle to get to this point.
Yep.
And along the way, Judge Hlophe has demonstrated amply that he doesn't possess the requisite integrity to occupy a position on the bench, let alone, lead a division.
Okay. Advocate Busisiwe Mkwebane is now joining us as well. Advocate Mkwebane, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Yesterday, with your remarks before the National Assembly, before the vote took place, you termed what is taking place as a concoction of racism. What do you base this allegation on? Advocate Mkwebane, please unmute yourself.
Good morning. Good morning to your listeners, Aldrin. You know, it is indeed, because we know Judge Hlophe is the first judge to work in the Western Cape to compile a report on racism and what was happening in the Western Cape. He was never forgiven for that, actually. So he has been hunted down since then. And I mean, we've seen with how he was treated. I mean, you know, Judge Hlophe, he was exonerated in around 2009. But then they had to make sure that they bring back the matter through the DA. The Premier of the Western Cape brought the matter back to court. And after that, the matter was dealt with. I mean, they had to even establish a tribunal, and the tribunal had to deal with the matter de novo, and they had a finding against him. So those are racist tendencies. And I mean, he's punished for, investigating racism, and he's punished for engaging with his colleagues and counterparts, and even using his language. It means if you speak to your colleagues and say, that you will do the work. I mean, it means they don't even trust themselves, those people, to be influenced by a person. I mean, surely there was nowhere where they could prove that he said to them, this is how you should be writing your judgments. This is how you should be dealing with the matter. That's so wrong.
Mm-hmm. Advocate Mkwebane, I want to go back again to the question around racism. Again, what can you point to say that this is particularly racism? Because you also have the Judicial Service Commission and the Judicial Conduct Committee that has had its own investigation, and part of the members that sit on that committee are black people. So where does this racism come from, on which you say that Judicial Conduct Committee, including the judges that sit on that committee, that they are party to racism?
They are party, definitely, because they were influenced by their masters or whoever has been controlling them and feeding them with lies and the hatred towards Judge Hlophe. I mean, remember, even freedom under law, Judge Hlophe has been after Judge Hlophe throughout the process. And it was never purely an issue of dealing with excellent in doing his work. That is the deal with him. And remember, he's the expropriation of land and how he's been speaking about that issue, and the issue of doing away with common law, focusing on African law. So I think that also increased and perpetuated the ill treatment of Judge Hlophe. I mean, it has been very clear that is based on how he dealt with the West people who never wanted to issue a transformation.
Okay. Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach, do you agree? What's your sentiments on what Advocate Busisiwe Mkwebane has to say there, and also the issue around what Judge President John Hlophe wanted to do is transformation of the judicial industry?
Well, clearly I don't agree with Mkwebane. She offers no evidence, no facts. Just points to the fact that it's all lies with nothing to back it, and clearly, in my view, she's mistaken. Hlophe was not impeached because of anything except his poor behavior, his bad history, all of which is his own fault, and certainly the fact that he tried to influence two Constitutional Court justices in a matter concerning Jacob Zuma. So there's nothing there to do with racism. There's no masters to be answered to, and to even suggest that judges and justices of the Constitutional Court are doing the bidding of their masters is outrageous. They have no masters. Judges are independent, they're appointed to the bench, and they apply the law and they apply their minds to the law and the facts.
Yeah.
There's no one that gives them instructions, and judges take instructions from absolutely no one. That's a flight of fantasy, and it's outrageous to suggest that they were doing the bidding of their masters.
Yeah, so Advocate Breytenbach, if that is the case, why does that characterization not apply to Judge President John Hlophe, that here you have somebody who would not be able to be influenced, and also when it comes to Judge Jafta as well as Mkwebane, because they've been clear that they had not been influenced by that conversation?
It's not a matter of whether they were influenced or not influenced. It's a matter of the attempt. It's improper. It's such egregious behavior for a judge to approach colleagues and try to influence their behavior, try to influence the outcome of a case. It's absolutely outrageous. Of course, judges discuss matters as colleagues. Of course, they discuss the facts amongst each other. There's nothing unusual about that. But to suggest that trying to influence a judge is merely a discussion is something completely different. For the Judge President of the Western Cape to travel all the way to Johannesburg to try and influence two justices of the highest court in this country, that is such egregious behavior. It's got nothing to do with racism. It points to a serious lack of integrity. There's a flawed character there. And that lack of integrity is the reason why Hlophe cannot occupy a space on the bench. And that's not the only incident. There are many others that suggest, a serious lack of integrity, but that is the one that is the subject matter of this discussion.
Advocate Mkwebane, you also said yesterday that the Judicial Conduct Tribunal exceeded its powers. In which way?
Remember, that Judicial Tribunal was established after Hlophe was exonerated. And this is the matter which even Judge Mkwebane and Jafta took to court, and they indicated that the matter cannot be dealt with retrospectively. But then unfortunately, yes, they lost the case, and the Judicial Conduct Tribunal then dealt with the matter de novo, and then they had to decide to have this finding which we are here now discussing. I mean, the fact of the matter is that even Advocate Breytenbach or Ms. Breytenbach doesn't even point to a fact that, I mean, how do you then say a person influenced the two judges? You agree yourself, and even themselves, they indicated that they were never influenced. And at the end of the day, the very same judges...
It is the attempt that is also gross misconduct.
The person is discussing, I mean, she's agreeing. There's evidence that judges do discuss matters. There is evidence which is there that during tea breaks, during their discussion, they do discuss any matter. But then, I mean, what do you think of those constitutional court judges themselves? Even if a person can attempt to do that, what does it say about their integrity themselves? I mean, if a person is saying, and it means, in other words, even saying that to people that we trust in you, we think you guys, you will do the proper job. What evidence do they have that he told them this is how you must decide? So I think even the way it was dealt with and the influence of freedom under law in our judicial system and how they are dealing with cases. I mean, we have about Judge Yakub, who have been recorded, who've insulted. Their behavior is out of this world, but nothing is happening to them. Do we have any recording where Hlophe said or insulted and behaved like an uncontrolled a person or a person who without integrity? That has never happened.
Well, there is the case of Judge Goliath and the complaint that she has lodged against Judge President John Hlophe. But Glynnis, Breytenbach, your quick response to Advocate Mkwebane?
Well, again, it's with respect to she's using the same unsubstantiated suggestion and innuendo with no facts. The fact of the matter is that this matter has traversed through all of the courts in our country, and the courts have found the way they have found. That is uncontrovertible. Okay. That Hlophe made an attempt to influence two Constitutional Court judges is established now, and the Judicial Conduct Committee has sat and made a decision. The JSC has made a finding, and yesterday's last-ditch attempt, again described as dangerous by the courts, by Hlophe to prevent this, just shows that he lacks the most essential quality, in my view, for a judge is integrity. He lacks integrity, and he doesn't care how much damage he causes in his attempt to exonerate himself. Yep. He does not have the interests of the judiciary at heart. He does not have the interests of the people of South Africa. He's happy to sacrifice the image and the integrity of the judiciary on the altar of John Hlophe. He does not deserve to sit on the bench. There's no doubt about that. It's established. Okay.
Finally, and I'd like to hear both of your response on this, advocates. I'll start off with you, Advocate Mkwebane, then I'll come to Advocate Breytenbach. The SCA matter, when Justice Chris Jafta and Justice Mkwebane tried to appeal the matter at the SCA, and they failed there. They tried to petition the Constitutional Court to hear the matter, and the Constitutional Court said it can't hear the matter, considering how many judges may be conflicted, and also that it won't have a quorum. If the Constitutional Court had actually said to listen to that matter, do you think that we could have had a different outcome? Advocate Mkwebane, I'll start with you.
Aldrin and your listeners, it's so sad that we're labeling Judge Hlophe without his presence here or hearing his side of the story, but that's another discussion. I think, to be fair to him, I would suggest that you listen to him as Newzroom. And the fact of the matter is that it's so concerning in South Africa that you find I mustn't even forget that the clerk is the one who established and made sure that we have that JSC, which is now operational, which is now dealing with Judge Hlophe, the first honorable and judge with integrity and well-learned judge. But then it means the very same judges, they don't trust themselves. The very same judges is questionable about them, and they are also easily influenced. Because, if they refuse to hear the matter, judges must be objective. They shouldn't be influenced or looking into how a person or who is involved in the matter. They should be focusing on the law. So I think it's very much concerning that they decided the way they decided. But I think we need people of integrity. We need people or judges with who won't be influenced by what is happening in the country, but then will just purely focus on the law. And I think that's what we should be having, not the caliber of people who are easily influenced.
Advocate Breytenbach, your quick response?
Aldrin, yes, I don't see any profit in speculating about what may or may not have happened had the Constitutional Court heard the matter. The matter has been traversed very thoroughly in more than one court in this country, in more than one forum in this country, and again in Parliament last night. And I think, the facts speak for themselves, and I think you would struggle outside of a very small group of people to find anyone who held the view that Judge President Hlophe deserves a seat on the bench.
Thank you so much for your time. Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach, who's a member of Parliament for the Democratic Alliance, as well as Advocate Busisiwe Mkwebane, who is a member of Parliament for the EFF.